Hi, good evening. This is K2X. It's been a while. How have you all been? For those of you in the Tohoku region, the heavy snowfall must be tough. Please be careful, especially with snow falling from rooftops. Also, this Sunday, we have an election. In places with heavy snow, I know it can be hard to get to the polling stations. But to make Japan a better place, it's important for everyone, not just eligible voters, but children as well, to take an interest in politics and the future of our country. And for those who can vote, I hope you'll go and cast your ballot. Now, continuing from the previous Q&A session, I'd like to answer another question I received. What do you mean when you say you spent 60 years in the worry swamp, KUYOKUYO swamp? When I say I was in the worry swamp, KUYOKUYO swamp, I mean that I couldn't escape constant pointless worrying. I used to call it negative worrying, negative KUYOKUYO. The kind where you can worry open and honestly. I've now given this state a new name, the worry swamp. KUYOKUYO swamp, and I say I spent about 60 years in it. To be precise, 60 years is an exaggeration. It's more like I was born, lived about 60 years, and then finally learned how to worry openly and confidently, what I call dodo KUYOKUYO, dodo worry. That when I finally able to climb out of the swamp. But the deep part of the swamp started after I entered the working world. As a baby, a child, a teenager, I wasn't in the swamp. I had youth, dreams of baseball, dreams of music, and even when I didn't have dreams, school life was fun and relaxed. So back then, it wasn't a swamp at all. The swamp period lasted from when I became a working adult until fairly recently. So while I say 60 years, in reality, it's more like I began to pull myself out around age 55, and by around 60, I was fully out of it and able to worry dodo KUYOKUYO. Looking back, I realized something. My swamp period, roughly from age 25 to 55, aligns almost perfectly with Japan's lost 30 years. From the burst of the economic bubble to around 2021. Not 60 years, but around 30. And just as Japan is now slowly shifting from deflation to inflation, wages are rising for some people, and there are signs the country might improve. I too emerged from my swamp and began practicing dodo KUYOKUYO little by little. Perhaps this is coincidence. Perhaps it's a natural rhythm of life. I also received another question. What did you gain from your time in the worrying swamp? Okay, I explained that my so-called 60 years in the worry swamp was actually more like 30. So what did I gain during those 30 years? I've been thinking about it. And the biggest thing I gained is this. I came to understand the feeling of people who are suffering silently. The kind of worrying I did in the swamp wasn't dodo worrying, dodo kuyokuyo. It was a painful, hidden kind, and from that I learned to feel and understand the hearts of others who are going through difficult times. Recently, something happened that made me realize this again. A junior colleague who lived far away returned for a visit, and I happened to run into him. I had heard he was going through a tough time, so I asked, "How are things?" He looked down, discouraged, and simply said, "It's hard, really hard." He didn't explain the details. I didn't hear the details, but I could feel the weight of his struggle. So right there, I gave him a hug and told him, "It's okay, you're going to be okay." He teared up, and I almost cried too. I told him I'm praying for him, cheering for him, even from far away. He nodded and headed back. He never told me what was happening, but just from seeing him, I could sense the pain he carried, because I had once felt that same pain. A similar thing happened today with a more experienced colleague, younger than me, but not as young as the previous one. I had heard he was going through some hard times recently. When I asked how he was doing, he said, "It's tough, really tough." I didn't hug him, but I put my hand on his shoulder and told him, "It's okay. You get through this." He didn't cry, but he looked like he might again. I don't know the details, but I can imagine the feelings because I've been there. So what did I gain from 30 years in the swamp? The ability to understand the hearts of people who are suffering, to share a little of their burden, to stand with them, even without words. It was painful, yes, but because of that pain, I can now empathize with others who are struggling. How about you? Does my story make sense to you? If you've ever been in a swamp yourself, what did you gain from it? I'd love to hear your thoughts. See you next time. それではまた。